Welcome back to our session today. We're addressing a very, very highly requested topic, and it's been in absolute high demand. And we're with one of our most experienced and decorated agents, Mr. Kamaljeet Singh, who is a registered migration agent from Aussizz Group Clayton. He's a very persuasive speaker with a keen interest in guiding international students towards the right path, and he's highly skilled in immigration law and practice. He's an expert and he's trained in a range of trade occupations, and he has a strong desire and passion to help students achieve the best migration outcome in Australia. So whatever questions you have regarding skill assessments and state nomination pathways for any of the trade occupations, leave it for him in the comment section below, and he'll be addressing them in the Q&A session at the end. Or if you've missed the live and you're watching this later, you can fill out the form in the description and we'll be sure to get in touch with you. For now, over to you, Kamaljeet.
Thanks, Riddhi. Thanks for your lovely words. It has been a nice day as well today in Melbourne. And again, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to another Facebook Live session with Aussizz Group. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kamaljeet Singh. I'm a registered migration agent currently working with Aussizz Group in Clayton branch. And the topic today, which we have chosen, is basically trade occupations and PR pathway in regards to certain trade occupations. Moving forward, fellows, again, while the session is going on, if you've got any questions in regard to trade occupations, you can leave me a comment. If your case needs a little bit of study on it, we'll highly recommend you to meet us in person. If I believe your question is pretty simple and is answerable on the live session, I'll try to answer to my very best knowledge. Moving forward, guys, again, I'm a registered migration agent working with Aussizz Group Clayton. Today, we'll be focusing on trade occupations and their PR pathways. First of all, let me introduce you Aussizz. We are professionals in migration education sector. Alongside in professional year program, we do provide services like health insurance and all others, which can be found on our website. Again, we are best in RPT. We have introduced online PTE, I think probably 2 to 3 months ago, and it's going pretty well. If you guys are interested in joining PTE, you can go on to our Aussizz Group website, which is aussizzgroup.com, and you can introduce yourself to the PTE. Another most services which we provide are migration assistance plus AET review applications. AET, basically previous name was called MRT. The new name AET, Administrative Appeals Tribunal, is the body which basically is reviewing your application if your student visa or any other particular visa has been refused. And if you believe there are such grounds on which your application must have been reviewed, we can help you out in those matters as well. Moving forward, education, enrollment, and career guidance. Of course, we have got a number of educational counselors who are experienced and qualified to guide you through your enrollment in regards to your course when it comes to studying in Australia. In regards to, again, you've got certain universities, colleges, which are already linked with Aussizz, and our educational counselors can help you into that. Again, PT and IELTS coaching, we are #1 in that. Do visit our website, aussizzgroup.com. Handy information in there. You might like it. You can buy the packages, which can, again, help you to secure your desired score in PTE. CCL coaching is given in certain languages, which include Hindi. Please do visit Aussizz Group website again and book your session for CCL coaching, because CCL can give you extra 5 points when it comes to focusing on your GSM PR pathways. Health insurances, as it has been mandatory for certain visas in regards to, you can buy health insurance from Get My Policy, or you can contact our team, which can help you out in regards to giving you the best option and mandatory option in some visas, especially 485 nowadays. If you're lodging, health insurance is mandatory. They might guide you through into that as well. And last and the least, professional year enrollment. As if you are IT or engineer candidate and are interested in joining our professional year program, Again, if you guys are joining professional program through Aussizz group, we won't be charging you for 485 visa application. Yeah, that's right. We won't be charging you for 485 visa application if you are joining professional program. No matter in which state you are planning to, if you are going through Aussizz group, we won't be charging you. Again, guys, these are some of the limited, which I've mentioned, services which are provided by Aussizz group. Further details, you can visit our website. Today, we'll be focusing on in regards to especially trade occupations. Okay, and alongside, I'll be answering your questions as well, slowly as we move on to the requirements for the trade occupations and TR pathway. Okay, guys, in regards to trade occupations and prospective career options, there are popular designations when it comes to trade occupations. Number one, which has been the best and the subjective sort of occupation nowadays, is hospitality industry, in which chef and cook have been a hot topic nowadays when it comes to Victoria, as they have introduced yesterday that recently that they will be inviting chef and cooks as well under their nominated scenario. Number two, there are occupations like motor mechanic, metal fabricator, welder, wall and roof tiler, bricklayer, carpenter, cabinet maker, painting, trade worker, baker and hairdresser. The differences between these occupations, in some of the occupations, you might require only to do certificate 3, as like, for example, motor mechanic. In some occupations, you might have to do certificate 3 and 4 when it comes to chef and cook. So again, when you are talking to your qualified educational counselor, guys, do ask them, to have a meeting with migration agent first, so that he can guide you through that what is the minimum qualification for your trade occupation when you are choosing any of these courses. The differences lies, again, there are certain occupations which might not be in MLT-SSL list. MLT-SSL and ST-SOL are again different occupation list. So again, do visit your nearest Aussizz migration agent, which can guide you further whether I need to study certificate 3 only, or should certificate 3 and 4 is mandatory in regards to getting the job ready program or getting nominated in future with any particular state. Let's move on to the skill assessment authorities. There are basically, if we talk about 4 to 5 skill assessment authorities. Number one is Trade Recognition Australia. As you guys might be aware, with the job ready program, that a lot of people who are into trade occupations, they might have to do job ready program, and the Trade Recognition Australia is doing job ready program. In regards to migration skill assessment, which is MSA, if you have got enough work experience and you are able to meet the guidelines of TRA, you might be able to achieve and secure full skill assessment without doing job ready program. Again, keeping in mind, you must have minimum sort of that duration of work experience. Okay, before we move further, let's move on to a little bit of comments. Gitu Sethi has said, any invitations for painting trade workers in Western Australia? Yes, Gitu. Western Australia did invited painting trade workers. Now, I am assuming that you are talking about candidates who are outside Western Australia, but they have been pre-invited on high points. So in that case, you might have to produce a job offer in Western Australia for at least 12 months. In the Sangha is saying, hi, MPA done in Western Australia this year, got TR this week. EUI submitted last week. What are the chances? 80 points. Can you suggest me any trade course in TR? See, I'll probably recommend you. You have recently lodged your TR. Now, you mentioned you've got your TR this week. You should seek professional advice from our Perth office. We have got experienced migration agent like Priti Puri, Rajan and Raminda Sade working. Talk to them, have a word with them. Let's see which is the best option for you. And accordingly, they might be introducing you to trade occupation if required. Mehul Bhatt has mentioned, what about childcare worker? We are living in Darwin. I think you were supposed to write NT. You've written NY. See, again, Mehul, in regards to Darwin, we'll be discussing options further. What are the requirements? And if you are able to meet those kind of requirements, there are possibilities that you might be getting nominated in Northern Territory. Pratibha, hi Pratibha. You have said for 186 direct entry, part-time experience is valid? ? Yes, the part-time experience is valid. What happens if you are getting disaster payment when we are in 482, and is there anything wrong? See, again, Pratibha, the question rises here when it comes to employer sponsor visas. Immigration is checking the capability and capacity of your workplace, whether are they financially capable to sponsor you. Now, again, the question which you have asked leave us on a gray area, that how much disaster payment they might have claimed. But if they have claimed enough to prove the delegate, that, this company or this employer does not have a financial capacity to sponsor you, then it might be an issue. Harshana says, do we need 2 years of post-study experience for 482? Harshana, first of all, thanks for joining, my friend. For 482, even if you have worked during study, it will be considered. Again, for 482, a part-time experience is also counted. But make sure, guys, if you are in regards to 482 inquiry, casual work experience is not considered for 482. So make sure if you are targeting 482 visa, it must be full-time or part-time paid experience. Karan Nanda is saying, Chef 190 New South Wales. Hi, Karan. Again, we are expecting New South Wales to giving us soon invites in regards to 190. Again, looking at the situation, which has, brought a pretty strict lockdown in New South Wales. There might be a little bit of delay, but let's see how it goes. But depending upon, you must be having high points, we are expecting at least 80 to 85 points. Ranjini Devi saying, what are the occupations for opportunities for painters in Victoria? Ranjini, for painters, it's very hard in Victoria. Apart from 491, there might not be many chances. Again, with 491 as well, Victoria might say you must be working in target sector. I'll probably recommend you South Australia would be a better option. If you can go there and at least do 6 to 12 months, there are chances for 190 or 491. Moving on to next comment is Ankush Mandhan is saying, hi, what are the chances for 190 welder first class, 65 points South Australia? There are high chances, Ankush. If you have done your job ready program in South Australia, there are very high chances you are in a very nice profession. Not many candidates would be in South Australia in same profession. So I'll probably recommend it. If you are in South Australia, there are high chances, mate. Sarika Vicky, hi. You have said how many points for 190 for motor mechanic in New South Wales? Again, Sarika, we haven't seen any invites yet for 190 in regards to motor mechanic trade occupations in New South Wales. We are expecting they might be inviting people soon, given they had a lot of number of seats. Again, expected points might be 75 plus. Okay, we haven't seen any invites yet, but this is just a prediction that we are expecting. It might be at least 75 plus points. So if you are in New South Wales, then only you'll be meeting the eligibility. Because guys, again, make sure, I want to mention this, if you are in New South Wales for 190, they have said that you must be well established, my friend. So if you are not well established in New South Wales, what does that mean? Minimum 3 months you must be living there. Okay, they haven't asked us any kind of work in New South Wales, but at least you must be residing in New South Wales. And then there, if you are holding high points, there are chances for 190. Again, they never said you must be residing in Sydney. So guys, make sure you choose your options wisely. Amna Zahid is saying 80 points for chef, New South Wales 190. Any chance? There are high chances, but for 190, you must be residing in New South Wales for at least minimum 3 months. And then you submit your EUI, and hopefully you might be hearing a good news soon in future. Is there points are matter for 119 Victoria? Jasbir Singh, I'll probably, yes. In target sector, we have seen Victoria have invited candidates who are working in STEM sector, but they have invited them on high points like 90 to 95 points. There is no such criteria that they are saying that you must have that kind of points. But again, when they have limited a number of seats, they are always trying to pick, cream profiles which are holding high points. So there is no such criteria that you must have high points, but they will be inviting people looking from the past couple more months that they have invited a high points candidate like 90 to 95 points. Moving on to Gurjeet Kaur is saying, please explain cook and chef PR pathway in Victoria. Of course, Gurjeet, as we move forward with the video, we'll be explaining that. Will New South Wales nominate people for 190 if they have been nominated for 491 different EUI? See, Waisak, New South Wales has said that they will be only nominating one candidate per EUI. That means if you are nominated for 491, there are very little chance that you might be nominated for 190. Hi there, just wondering, any chances for chef at 65 points in 190 or 491? Also got blood relation as well, and employer is happy to sponsor, looking for positive response. Karan, I'll probably suggest you out of all these, employer sponsor might be a nice option because chef has gone into priority PMSL list, priority migration skill occupation list. I'll probably recommend you going into 482 visa and looking forward. If you have got enough experience, you might be eligible for 186. Navjot Singh is saying, hello, sir. Any chance for 190 for painting trade work in South Australia? 65 points on living and working in South Australia. Definitely might. If you have been living and working in South Australia and working as a painting trade worker from last 12 months, and you've got 60 points on, then 5 points are given to you by state. You are eligible for 190. I'll probably recommend you should meet our registered migration agent, Mr. Tejas Patel, in Adelaide office, and he might be able to guide you through there. Okay, Ranjani is saying, can we do 2 skill assessment in 2 different occupations like painter and chef? Definitely, you can do 2 different skill assessment if you have that eligibility criteria. Okay, guys, before we move on to other comments, let's move forward with the session. Let's discuss about TRA Job Ready program first. Job Ready program is basically an employment-based skill assessment program which has been designed for international students so that if they're holding Australian qualification and then they are further eligible to get their full skill assessment in regards to migration. You must have held a student visa as a primary applicant. Again, guys, this is very questionable thing. We have seen a lot of cases in which candidates were previously advised that your dependent can do a study on TR and then he can do a job ready program. The answer is no. You must have held a student visa as a primary applicant. So when you are choosing that kind of options in regards to consulting and looking your pathway for job ready program as on your dependent study, make sure they have held a student visa as a primary applicant, my friend. Assessment steps. Number 1, PSA provisional skill assessment. The changes were made last month, implemented on 1st of September 2021, that the fees has been decreased to $200. PSA review can be done within 45 days, $200. JRE is step number 2. Fees has been decreased from 500 to 450. GRWA, they have increased the slightly fees from 2,000 to 2,500 Australian dollars. Final skill assessment is basically $65, previously 150. Guys, when it comes to job ready program, you must have full-time work rights for JRE, GRWA, and GRFA, which are step number 2, 3, and 4. So if you are not holding full-time work experience, TRA might question you in regards to why you have applied for JRE as you are not holding a full-time work visa. So make sure you consult with the registered migration and your options if you are planning further to study a trade course and further job ready program. Do you believe you have that kind of work experience if you are moving further? Again, fees have been changed, guys. So TRA has shown some kind of leniency in kinds to fee structure, but again they have increased $500 for step number 3, which makes a practical reasonable, because there are so many candidates and so many restrictions going on, and assessors are working overtime to get you through the job ready program. Again, guys, if you are applying for 485 visa, these are tips and tricks. Use your bridging visa wisely. We have seen candidates, they have applied for 485 visa and 485 visa have not been granted yet, given time, because candidates are not able to do their health examinations, and department is fully aware, and they have already started giving you at least 90 days to do your medical examination. That allows you extra time period to do something about your PR options if you are looking into PR pathway. So make sure, guys, you are using your bridging visa very wisely, rather than staying in that particular or some particular state where you might not be eligible. So guys, if you have lodged a temporary residence visa with the migration agent, talk to them about your options. Talk to your closest Aussizz registered migration agent, so they can further guide you that how we're going to use this bridging visa, especially bridging visa A, to further utilize that time period of bridging visa and complete your at least, some kind of maybe PY or trade occupation or maybe job ready program. For job ready program, again, you guys might be aware, 3 months of prior employment can be claimed for JRE. Yes, but that 3 months cannot be 360 hours for PSA. Number 3, you must have minimum 70-25 hours and 1 year of requirement must be met. Yes. So if we are using a bridging visa wisely, that 1 year of requirement, at least 8 to 9 months, we might be completing. We can change up to minimum 5 employers, and job ready program will give you migration skill assessment and further employment points, which are 5 employment points. You guys might already be aware. Okay, let's move on to some comments. Ranjani, I think I did answer your question for 2 skill assessment. Dhanuka is saying, is there any chance in Victoria for telecommunication technicians in Victoria? There are chances, but again, if you're working in a STEM sector, target sector, I'll probably suggest, 491 might be a better option. In regards to 190, they are very strict in regards to working candidates only in that particular target sector. Telecommunication network or technologies in South Australia, Dhanuja, I'll probably say there are chances depending upon they might be requiring some sort of work experience. When it comes to 190, it's always much more higher duration. It might be 6 months, it might be 12 months. We can further guide you if you can visit us in the office, but they might be requiring work experience. Now with 491, South Australia has said, even if you are not able to meet that kind of requirement, which is set by South Australia, they might waive off if you can show them sort of commitment, that in future, I'm going to still stay in South Australia. Vicky is saying when we can apply for 491 in New South Wales under Section 48. Vicky, Section 48 is, very sort of frustrating situation for a candidate when he or she gets an invite. 491 New South Wales, if you are able to secure an invite, in either way, you have to leave Australia, my friend. Section 48 is not about, when can I apply the visa? Section 48 is about where can I apply the visa? In your situation, if you are affected by Section 48, you have to leave leave Australia, my friend, in regards to lodging your 491 if you have been invited. Rajaprit Singh Pinder is saying, I have completed my job ready, have 1 year of work experience during study, 1 year after study. Give me 1 second, am I eligible for 482? Rajatpreet Singh, 1 year of experience during study, I'm assuming was 20 hours, and 1 year of after study would be full time. Yes. So in your case, I'll probably say, when it comes to 482, they require full-time work experience and can be equivalent part-time as well. So for example, if you work 20 hours and then next week you work 20 hours, you consider that as 1 week. So we are requiring at least 104 weeks of full-time work experience. So if you have done, for example, say you did certificate 3 and certificate 4 and diploma in 2 years, and you work 2 years and you are counting it as 1 year, and then you again worked 1 year after your study, yes, you might be eligible for 482. Vedya Vyas is saying, hi sir. Hello Vedya. New South Wales 190, 90 plus 5 points. Computer networking, date of effect March 2021, and system analyst June 2021. No experience. What are the chances? Thank you. Vedya, if you lost your EOI March 2021, we are expecting you might have a nice and strong chance. Okay, you are on 90 points. But if you have lost your EOI, you must be in New South Wales, residing in New South Wales, well established in New South Wales, at least minimum 3 months. There are high chances, my friend. But due to this COVID situation, we are expecting there might be a little bit of delay in regards to inviting for 190. But again, you never know with these states, we might have good news for you soon. Mahish Reshta is saying chances for 190 New South Wales for developer programmer with 90 plus. Same question Vedya has asked Mahi. There are chances, but we haven't seen any invites yet. They did invited last financial year. They might be inviting this financial year as well. But again, taking COVID into consideration, we are not aware yet which occupation they are going to invite first. But the points you are holding, they are very nice points. They might be inviting you on that kind of point as well, but make sure you are residing in New South Wales. Raheel Ahmad is saying, what are the chances of getting 190 and 491 in Western Australia for electronics and communication? Points required. See, Raheel, if you are in Western Australia, you know, they might be requiring either you have been graduate of Western Australia or you might have been working there for at least 12 months. If you are outside Western Australia, they are requiring you to give a job offer. So if you're in Western Australia, I'll probably suggest you go and consult your nearest migration agent in Perth, okay, so that they can discuss further options with you. Best PR options for engineering technologists, Mansi, I'll probably say, see, engineering technologists have been left with very slight chances. 491 might be an option, or we can choose South Australia when it comes to 190 or 491, but taking this thing in mind, they might require for work experience. So either we can go into New South Wales 491 or South Australia. Yuvraj is saying, hi for SW Motor. I'm not sure what that question is. Maybe he's saying hi to everybody who's a sweet motor mechanic. So yeah, if everybody's motor mechanic, just say hi. Venkat is saying Baker for 494. Yes, Venkat, with baking 494, basically you might be requiring 3 years of work experience in the regional itself. 494, if you want to lodge, you must, it's again an employer sponsor visa. So make sure you must have a 3 years of work experience in the regional. Again, if you have got that kind of work experience, there are certain states which might be more beneficial for you, especially when we are considering South Australia might be more beneficial, like considering, you know, 12 months outer regional or maybe 6 months outer regional might lead you to 190 or 491. Hi, I just want to ask you, I have a blood relation with my employer. Can he sponsor me for 482? Ankush, the answer is no. You must not be related to your employer. But if you've got that kind of work experience, then I'll probably suggest you you should find a new employer. Ankit Patel, is there any chance for 190 or 490 in automotive in Queensland? Ankit, see, you know, Queensland is that kind of a state, you know, there are more, you know, migrants are more, you know, beneficial with New South Wales, South Australia, you know, when it comes to Tasmania, Victoria itself. Queensland is such of a very strict state, you know, they will come up with these kinds of, you know, requirements that which are very hard for the candidates. If you are, you know, doing automotive studies in Queensland, I'll probably recommend you, you know, maybe try to do your job ready program somewhere else in some other state like South Australia or maybe New South Wales regional. There might be high chances. Okay, UV is saying, hi, what are the chances for motor mechanic with 85 points, including state? Very nice chances, UV. With the New South Wales, because we haven't seen any invites yet, but the points that you are holding 85 points, including state, seems like you might have done masters alongside you've done a trade course and you are living in Sydney. There are high chances, you know, that if they invite trade occupations, there are chances you'll get the invite, might. Okay, Pradeep is saying, what about 494 or 186 direct entry? I worked 3.5 years as a cook and worked 2 years as a chef during my 485. I've got my skill assessment as well. Can I apply 494 or 186 any chance? Okay, Pradeep, when it comes to 494, okay, they require 3 years of work experience in regional, okay. In regards to occupations, I'll probably recommend chef occupation is much more beneficial to you. You have already done 2 years as a chef. You are eligible for 482 visa. Furthermore, 1 year, you might be eligible for 186 visa. So I'll probably better off going with 482 to 186 rather than 494 pathway. Vaidya was, Racharya is saying, thanks, Vaidya. Thanks for joining the show, my friend. Sudeep Sapkota is saying, what are the chances for 190 with 70 points for chef, or better to go with sponsor 482? Sudeep, see again, if you are in Victoria, we can lodge the ROI, but again, Victoria has recently introduced, you know, chef and cook occupations. So we are assuming even if they are inviting chef occupations, let's see, how many points, you know, they're going to be introducing. But if you have an eligible sponsor for 482, this would be a better option because a chef has gone into PMSL priority migration skill occupation list. Given that we have seen they are pretty fast with you know, approving nominations and visas for 482 when it comes to. So hopefully this answers your questions, Sudeep. Moving forward, Yuvraj is saying for 190, I've mentioned, 85 points are very nice. Kaursani saying, if doing job ready at outer regional, what are the requirements? Kaursani, can you please explain a little bit of question, what sort of occupation is it and which regional you are talking about? Abdul, can a cook with 10 years of work experience from Victoria with certificate 3 and 4 with section 48 apply for 491 190 or any other PR visa? Abdul, the issue here itself is your question, section 48 stops us for applying the visa in Australia. I'll probably recommend you, if you're in Victoria, let's lodge an ROI for 190 if you're still working in hospitality industry, because you have got enough work experience. And if you get the invite, my friend, just leave Australia, mate. You've lodged the PR. Either way, you're going to get the PR. You know, section 48 will stop you from applying the visa in Australia. So it's better if you've got the invite, just leave Australia and lodge the visa. Sandeep Singh, any chance for carpenter in Victoria for 190? Sandeep, unfortunately, brother, Victoria has gone some kind of, that phase that they are targeting, sort of STEM skills. They are focusing on medical research. They are focusing on, health sector. Carpentry might be a better option if you are focusing, if you have a, employer who can sponsor you, or if you are studying carpentry, excuse me for my language, you should do your job ready program in South Australia, my friend. Okay, so that might lead you to straight for 190. Okay, we've got Mr. Fernando here. It says IT 1 year of experience in Australia as a IT technical support. Mr. Fernando, the question seems incomplete. Can you please explain a little bit what I'm trying to say? Pradeep, can I apply 494 with my experience as a cook and 2 years as a chef? Which occupation, Pradeep? See, again, if you worked as a cook, you cannot use that kind of work experience to apply for, employer sponsor visas. Plus, you must have a skill assessment as well for 492 and 94. So keep that thing in mind. As I've mentioned you previously, I'll probably recommend we go as a chef rather than as a cook. Given that, we can go for 482 first if you've got 2 years of work experience. And furthermore, if you worked for 1 more year, we might be eligible for 186 direct entry, because for 482, they require 2 years of work experience. And for 186, they require 3 years of work experience. Okay. Before we move on to other comments, let's move with our session a little bit. Again, use your bridging visa wisely, guys. If you are, you have applied for your your temporary TR 485 post-study or graduate work stream. Trade Recognition Australia MSA is basically a pathway. Migration skill assessment is a straight pathway. If you've got enough work experience, you can straight apply for a skill assessment. Given that if you've got Australian qualification, you might require 3 years of full-time or equivalent part-time. But if you've got Australian qualification by RPL, 3 years of full-time undertaken after RPL, or 6-year full-time equivalent is required. For example, it can be 4 years before RPL and 2 years after RPL. WebSS is an authority which is basically dealing with a lot of trade occupations, general occupations. But today we'll be focusing only on trade occupations that require basically 2 pathways. Pathway number 1, if I do not have an Australian qualification. Pathway number 2 is if I do have an Australian qualification. Pathway number 1 says, okay, you must have at least 4 to 6 years of full-time work experience required. If you do not have an Australian qualification, yes, guys, if you have an overseas work experience full-time, okay, in your certain trade, and you do not have an Australian qualification, you might be eligible for straight full skill assessment. You do not need to do any kind of job ready program. So make sure, guys, when we are, meeting any migration agent, tell them your full story since you passed your schooling. Tell them each and every single thing so that they can discuss. Sometimes, candidate comes to us and they say, we have studied this and that's it. How are we gonna, basically assess, because we are relying on the information from the client. Okay, you need to tell them since your schooling, what you have done, what have you studied, what kind of work experience you have gathered, so that they can introduce sort of, maybe we have seen candidates, they have, for example, 5 years, 6 years of skill assess, so what do you call, not skill, work experience in India or maybe in Nepal or Sri Lanka. And then they were never given this option that they are straight eligible for, skill assessment. and for the PR options might be existing. Okay, so make sure you discuss this, with your agents when you are focusing on a skill assessment. Pathway number 2 is basically if you have an Australian qualification and your job ready program has expired, you have been working, in your nominated occupation for 3 years, you can get another skill assessment from VETASES. Evidence which is required, you must have, sort of your qualification, your employment evidence, your reference letter, your pay slips, your bank statement, your notice of assessment, your super must be paid. So all those evidences need to be checked by VETASES. Once they are checked, they will invite you for a practical and technical interview. It can be practical or it can be done via Zoom or any kind of, electronic source to judge where your sort of skills are in regards to that particular occupations. And this is very strict, guys. The assessments are done in English. Australia is an English speaking country. So make sure if you are from offshore and planning to do any kind of skill assessment, your English must be at least, that level that you should understand the assessor. Let's move on to PR pathways. Under general skill migration, basically we have 3 visas, 189, 190 and 491. When it comes to these visas, you must meet 3 criteria first. Number 1, you must have a 6 in each competent English. When you are giving any kind of, English exam, you must have minimum 6 in each. Basically, you must have 6 each to apply PR. That's it. Okay. Second, you must have a full scale assessment. When we are saying full scale assessment, it cannot be a skill assessment used for 485. 485 is a provisional skill assessment only used to, satisfy the criteria for 485. You must have a full scale assessment. Moving forward into, you must have minimum 65 points. Considering your age factor, your qualification, your English, your PY, NATIs, work experience, minimum 65 points are, eligibility must be met. For 190, state will help you with 5 points. For 491, state will help you with 15 points. If you are going into family sponsor, candidates will be getting 15 points from their family sponsor as well. But keeping that thing in mind, your family sponsor must be living in the regional. All right, let's move on to a little bit more about MLTSSL list. MLTSS was replaced by SOL in 19th of April 2017. Applicants must have an occupation MLTSSL list if they are applying for 189 or 491 family. So, for example, if a candidate is a cook occupation doesn't find, goes into MLTSSL list, they cannot apply for 189 or 491 family sponsor, not state sponsor. For state sponsor, you must be focusing on your state list. Again, as I mentioned in the start of the video, guys, Aussizz Group website is pretty up to date when it comes to state requirements. So make sure you go and visit, Aussizz Group website. There's a small sort of a pop-up window at the left-hand corner. You can search your occupation there. The state options are there. The guidelines are there. Every single information is there. If you still are not, satisfied, you can consult our registered migration agents in regards to your occupations. All right, let's move on to comments a little bit now. Dishant is saying, I have 70 points for 190, including state for New South Wales. Currently working in regional New South Wales since 1 year. See, Dishant, if your occupation is trade, 70 points might be questionable. But again, because you're working in New South Wales for last 1 year, there are chances for 190. Now, if you are invited already for 491 from New South Wales, they may not invite you for 190. So just make sure, choose your options wisely, increase your points a little bit so that your 190 option, your profile is nice, you've been working there, but just try to increase your points a little bit. Harshrana is saying, I have 90 points, completed my job already in motor mechanic, completing 2 years of work experience in October. Should I go for 482 or move to another state? See, Harsh, when it comes to motor mechanic, there are only certain states which might be giving you options for 190. 482 option would be, much better option in regards to if your employer is happy to sponsor you. So moving another state, because, whether you're going to be able to find a job there or how's things going to go, I'll probably suggest you 482. Mr. Fernando is saying BSc honors in IT technical support 1 year. I'm dependent with full-time work rights while my wife complete MSc. Mr. Fernando, seems like, if you're dependent, you have got full-time work rights with your partner, we need to assess your case. Okay, what kind of studies you have done, whether you've got a skill assessment or not. As I previously mentioned, to apply for PR, you must have a skill assessment, you must have minimum 6 in each, and you must have minimum 65 points. We have to assess those kind of criteria. Hajrana is saying in Melbourne, see, job ready program, if you have completed in Melbourne, might not help you. Okay, because Victoria itself might not be inviting you anytime soon. So I'll probably recommend, let's go with 482 visa, or think about Tasmania or South Australia option. Or if you're happy with 491, New South Wales 491 might be a better option as well. Okay. Mr. Fernando is saying, what can I do? Can I apply? Mr. Fernando, as I've mentioned, it would be a better option if you can come and visit us in the office. Okay, because I need to assess your case, what kind of, point scales we are sitting on, what kind of criteria has been met, so that we can further advise you accordingly. Let's move on to the seminar a little bit. Short-term list is basically that kind of a list, which can be introduced in regards to 190 and 491. So guys, if your occupation is short-term list, you're only eligible for 190 or 491 state sponsor. Again, if you need further information for your occupation, you can visit our website. General skill migration pathways explained in this table. You must have 60.5 points minimum. State sponsor, full skill assessment is required, as you can see there. Okay, English minimum 6 in each. Visa type 189 is permanent, 190 is permanent, 491 they are not permanent visas, is a pathway to permanent residency, given that if there are no changes made in future, it's a temporary 5-year visa which leads you to permanent 191 visa. Visa options in New South Wales. 190, you need to have high points in regards to 90 to 95 points, including 5 points for state. Now with 90 to 95 points, fellows, we are expecting no such trade applicant might be able to achieve 90 points unless he has studied in the regional, or he has got enough work experience. So we are expecting, tradies might be invited at least 75 to 80 points minimum. So make sure, if you are living in New South Wales and have got high points, the definition what we are predicting is more than 75. Okay, when it comes to trade occupations. So make sure you are well established as well, like must be minimum 3 months of stay in New South Wales, and you have high points. For 491 regional, guys, you might have already seen 3 streams have been introduced. 1 and 2 streams are basically for those candidates who are either working in New South Wales regional, or they have completed 2 years of study in New South Wales regional. Stream number 3 is most of you guys would be interested in, because that basically requires, you must be having a skill in their list, and you must have a skill assessment, plus you must be living in Australia. So that leaves us a stream 3. We are expecting invites this week for stream 3. Let's see how New South Wales is going to go with 491, and then we might be able to update you in regards to which occupations they have invited in regards to stream 3. With stream 1, candidates have already been invited who have been working there for at least 12 months. Visas options for Victoria. Victoria is basically relying on a target sector, health sector. They need such kind of a STEM skills. Chef and cook occupations have been added on, recently, but no invites have been given. If you believe you have got enough work experience, I'll probably recommend you to lodge an ROI with high points. Okay, and let's see, maybe in coming future we might be getting invites from Victoria. Hang on, before we move outside of Victoria, the question rises here, what about if my occupation is not chef and cook? So guys, if your occupation is not chef and cook, choose your occupations sector wisely. We have seen a lot of IT candidates have been invited for 190 when they were in support of health sector or in support of medical research. So that criteria does exist as well. But if your occupation doesn't falls into that category, I'll probably recommend moving outside of Victoria might be a better option. Visa option for Tassie. Tasmania state nomination 190, they require 2 years of study in Tasmania or 6 months full-time work experience in your nominated occupation. And where you have been working, the business must be operating for at least 12 months. So keep that thing in mind, 2 years of study or 6 months of full-time work experience. 491 is requiring 1 year of study, and the study must be in Tasmania, 6 months of full-time work experience. Now, you might be eligible if you have got your occupation in TSOL list and you have 3 months of work experience. They might be, inviting you for 491 as well. So if you are such candidate who hasn't studied in Tasmania but has done his job ready program outside Tasmania and is moving to Tasmania, there are chances after 3 months, if your occupation is in TSOL list and you have got at least minimum 3 months of work experience, there might be chances to apply for 491. Given that they have started inviting section 48 candidates, there are chances that you might be getting the invites as well. Visa options for Northern Territory: 2 years of study in Northern Territory and 6 months living in Northern Territory. After your study, they are requiring you there. If you have completed your study and you were still living there for 6 months, there are chances they might be inviting you for 190. 24 months of living and working in NT, and 12 months of further contract must be shown as well. So if you are basically trying to go with 190 straight, they are requiring you to work there for 24 months. For 491, they are saying, say for example, I finished my studies in NT and then I moved out of NT, I never lived there for 6 months and now I want to go back. See, when it comes to state sponsored fellows, they are focusing basically on commitment. How much I am committed, when it comes to state nominations, am I going to be staying in that state? Am I going to, sort of be beneficial in regards to filling up their, skill requirements? That's what basically the states are looking into. Northern Territory being less populated state, they are very strict with their requirements. So if you have completed your study there, just stay there. There are chances they will invite you for 190. If no, then the option stays there: 2 years of study in Northern Territory, but never lived there for 6 months. What I'm saying is after study, they might only give you 491. If you work there for 6 months in your eligible occupation, 491, 12 months of further contract needs to be shown. Moving on to South Australia. South Australia, guys, is basically that kind of a state which has set up a very, required work experience for any particular occupation. When it comes to 190, we have seen they might be requiring from 12 months to 18 months. It might be in Adelaide, depending upon your occupation, like for example, welder or painter, it can be in Adelaide. Outside that, if you're focusing on occupations like chef and cooks, it has to be outside Adelaide. So we have to consider every particular occupation accordingly. If you want to discuss about your occupation, visit our website or visit our nearest registered migration agent in your state. So at least he can guide you through that requirement. In coming 6 months, what are the options? In coming 12 months, what are the options? So that we can be fully prepared and choose our job ready program state accordingly. All right, again with 491, as I've mentioned, that 491, some people might have done their job ready program in Victoria. Now they are looking for further options, whether I should go into South Australia, whether I should go into Tasmania. If you finish your trade occupation, I'll probably recommend you South Australia is a number one option, because they might require you to work there only 6 months, given that if you're working in outer, regional South Australia, and they might invite you for 491 as well. They've also mentioned if you haven't, worked there in that given requirement, but your visa is expiring and there are commitments shown in future that I'm going to stay in South Australia, you can try to convince the, your assessor, and they might invite you for 491 as well. Queensland, guys, as I've previously mentioned, that Queensland is such kind of a state which is very, sort of not migrants helpful. So they require at least 6 months of full-time work experience in a nominated occupation. Okay. Again, they need to see a commitment, whether I've got that kind of a commitment in the state. If the commitment is not there, there are very less chances. So they might require that kind of work experience. Okay, so if you do not have a work experience, plus previously we have seen they invited only occupations which were in priority migration skill occupation list. So if you are a candidate who is studying in Queensland, try to find a job in your own nominated occupation. So in further, so that if Queensland is a little bit and start inviting people who are working there, there are chances that you'll get the invites as well. ACT, Canberra, when we are focusing on 190 and 491 for ACT, requiring 6 months to 3 months of work experience minimum is required. They're inviting candidates according to the metrics. Okay, if you are able to find a job, okay, now with the trade occupations, the only issues, there are not many trade occupations in ACT, very small state, federal government, defense occupations, ID occupations, engineering occupations. Trade, I would not advise ACT unless you believe, there are strong commitments. Say, for example, we might have, committed employer who is happy to, give you a job for at least 2 years or something like that, so that we can invest our job ready program in ACT and then further look for 190 pathway. Okay, so let's quickly see if we've got any comments. So Mayuri Shah Hassani is saying, I'm working as a carpenter from last 3 years in Melbourne. Okay. My wife is main applicant. Should my work help her as I do trade in carpentry? See, Mayuri, I think you are trying to say that, I'm a carpenter, but my wife is the main applicant. How I'm going to help my wife? That might be a question. Yes. So in regards to that, what happens is, Mayuri, when we are focusing on, occupations in regards to trade, skill assessment must be achieved by the candidate to help your, applicant, your partner. Okay, to achieve the skill assessment, either you must have that kind of work experience, 3 to 4 years of work experience. In your case, you do have a 3 years, but you do not have an Australian qualification. So, okay, another 1 more year might help you to get the skill assessment. Skill assessment will help your partner, not your 3 years of work experience. Skill assessment will help your partner, plus your English will help your partner. So yeah, you can go from there. Plus, if you believe, you want to go with employer sponsor options, there might be option as well. Okay, if you have got an employer who can sponsor you in future, you might have an option, given that what kind of study you have done in the past, and are you able to secure that kind of, employer eligibility. Kiran Sidhu has mentioned someone. Thanks for that, Kiran. What about business visa in Brisbane? Devinder Singh, at the moment, we are basically focusing on trade occupations. In coming future sessions, authorized agents will be focusing on Brisbane. I'll give you a little bit of hint. Queensland might be inviting people who have been, running their businesses for at least 6 months. Such kind of investment is needed. Such kind of commitment is needed in regards to employing Australian citizen. So there are chances, if you are running a business there. Okay, Sai saying, I finished masters in IT in Victoria. Is it good to choose Western Australia at this moment? I'll probably say, Sai, when it comes to IT sector, if you have got a job offer in Western Australia, I'm assuming you might be planning to do professional year in IT. And if you are able to secure a job alongside professional year in Western Australia for 12 months, there are high chances. Or else New South Wales would be a better option. Because when it comes to Western Australia, they are basically focusing on, what do you call that? Job offer, sort of employment. They don't want you to be burden on the state, basically. Okay. So if you're not able to secure a job there, there might be less possibilities. So Western Australia, you can choose, but if you only have a job. Okay, moving on to TSS, temporary skill shortage visa for trade occupations. Yes, chef has been introduced in regards to priority, migration skill occupation list. 2 years full-time work experience is required, as I've previously mentioned. You might be eligible for 2 to 4 years of visa if your occupation is in MLTSS list. Okay, easy going, guys. If you are planning to lodge 482, okay, you must have 2 years of work experience. Clear? Plus, you must have a skill assessment. If you do not have a skill assessment and you have done certificate 3 or 4 or any kind of a certificate which is Australian qualification, then you don't even need skill assessment. So basically, say for example, a candidate did certificate 3, a candidate did certificate 4, okay, and then further He never did job ready program, but from certificate 3, 4 and further 1 to 2 years he was working, say for example, as a motor mechanic. He does not require a skill assessment because he has completed minimum Australian qualification in Australia. Okay, so there are exemptions given, but keeping that thing in mind, the 2 years of work experience is not waived off. Okay, 482, how is it helpful? 482 is basically a pathway to 186. Okay, so if for example you are on 482, you have 2 years of work experience. For 186 we need 3 years of work experience, so you basically need just 1 more year and you can lodge for 186 direct entry. If you are going into TRT stream, TRT is basically working with the same employer for at least further given more years, 3 years, so that I can further apply for 186 in TRT. 186 direct entry, applicant must have 3 years full-time work experience to be eligible for 186 via direct entry. Working 3 years full-time on 482 with same employer can lead you to 186 TRT stream. So direct entry, basically guys, 186 has given 3 major streams. We'll be discussing 2 itself today, which is direct and TRT. For direct, if you have got 3 years of work experience, you can go into direct entry. If you have got 3 years of work experience with the same employer on 482, because 482 was for 4 years, you can go into TRT 186. But remember, certain occupations which are in MLT SSL list will only get 4 years. If your occupation is in STSOL list, you may be eligible only for 2 years. Okay, again, 6 in each is required because it's a PR visa. Most of the permanent resident visas, the immigration requires you to get 6 in each minimum. All right, let's move on to 494 visa. The applicant must have 3 years full-time work experience in last 5 years. The 3 years of full-time work experience with the same employer can be eligible for 191. Skill assessment is mandatory, but keeping that thing in mind, guys, 494 will require you to have 3 years of work experience in the regional. Okay, so if you are working in the regional, apart from Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, you might be eligible for 491, 494 as well, which can further lead you to 191. What is the importance of work experience? Number 1, working in your occupation in trade can open many pathways. Of course, guys, if you are in any trade occupation, might don't just waste your time in driving Uber or doing some odd jobs, because technically you are not trying to help yourself when it comes to PR pathways. We have seen candidates where they say, when we arrived in Australia, we had no such plans to get permanent. It doesn't work like that. Might be proactive, be sensible. What your future plans are. No, you never had any plans in 6 months. Now suddenly after 6 months you want to get PR. Doesn't make any sense. So make sure you choose your option wisely. You choose your courses accordingly. That okay, this is the course where I can find a job. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. And then you try to find a job. There's no point you are doing a trade course and then you are driving Uber. Doesn't make any sense. Yes. So because that work experience in future will open up vast sort of options for us, employer sponsor, state 189. So it becomes a very strong and sort of need profile. What does Australia needs? They need skilled workers. They don't need Uber drivers. Okay, so choose your sort of plan that what I'm planning to do in coming 6 months or 1 year. Okay, it can basically lead you to another 5 points. As we previously mentioned, you can go into 482, 494, 186, 190, 491, given that where you have done your such kind of work experience. Talking about quota registration for Victoria, ROI, they have started selecting candidates. No invites have been given for chef and cooks yet. We are expecting to give them invite soon, but let's see when they're gonna come up with that great news. Now, because due to this COVID, the demand of trade will increase in future. So if you guys are into trade course, try to find a job, as I've mentioned previously, because the demand will be very high. Okay, because there is no skilled worker coming from overseas, so there are chances that you might be getting sponsored or you might be getting nominated from that particular state. So try to choose trade course where you believe that you can find a job in that. This is just a basic job search data which was done for chef and cook. More than 7K job vacancies. Now again, chef cooks, they've already always been in demands. Metal fabricators, painters, bakers, they are also in demands. There are other certain occupations which are highly demanded, like carpenters, you know, bricklayers, we call them chippies, you know, or electricians, you know, sparkies. So if you are into that kind of occupations, very nice occupations, not always try to follow your friends, try to follow your passion. Okay, guys, thanks for joining the live Facebook session. There are certain comments. I'll be reading those comments before we finish. Okay. And hopefully you guys might have enjoyed, you know, this session in regards to trade occupations, in regards to PR pathways, in regards to 482, in regards to 186. We do understand there are always some kind of, you know, questions which we are not able to, you know, assist you with live. So hopefully if you've got a question, you can visit myself. My name is Kamaljeet Singh in Aussizz Group Clayton branch. Okay. Or you can visit your nearest registered migration agent. Due to this COVID, we are not charging for our first consultation. So that is a nice thing. At least get a better idea about your situation and how it goes. Okay. Before we leave, let's talk about Lil Jack is saying worked in Australia, Perth for 10 years, sponsored as cook and later cafe manager. After 3 years, cook shop closed due to family issues of employer. Cafe manager shop not eligible, now in Mauritius. If one I apply PR, what chances study in Australia, certificates in foreign? See, Lil Jack, might unfortunate things happen. You know, sometimes there are certain commitments, you know, which businesses or maybe, you know, personal lives are not able to follow, and things happen, and visas, you know, candidates might have to suffer. In your case, at the moment, none of the states are inviting candidates, you know, in regards to nomination, state nomination visas. Stay tuned. There might be, you know, a good news for you. If you are in Mauritius, try to work in your own nominated occupation still, because we are expecting, you know, in future, if the states start opening up, they might be, you know, coming up with 3 to 5 years of work experience when they are trying to you know, nominate someone from overseas trade for either 190 or 491. Devinder Singh is saying, can I contact with your any staff? Definitely, Devinder. If you are in regards to business visa information in Brisbane, I'll probably advise you to visit our Brisbane office. If you're in Melbourne, you know, I'll probably suggest you to visit Melbourne office. You can probably book a free consultation. I'll probably leave you my phone number as well. Okay, we can discuss further option in regards to your business visa information in Queensland. Nishant Patel is saying, I finished masters in IT. If I do PY in ACT, what do you think about 491? Nishant, ACT is more beneficial to a candidate who's married. Okay, because when they are following in regards to metrics, okay, they are basically targeting candidates with high points. Okay, so if you are single, I'll probably suggest you New South Wales would be a better option. If you are moving to go to ACT, try to find a job in IT might, okay, so that it can lead you to high points, and then further 190 option is you know, advisable as well. Just thinking about 491 from the start, where we're gonna lie up, Mike. So let's take an example. All right, say for example, if I'm going to throw something here, okay, of course the pen might land, you know, there. If I'm already throwing something there, it might just land, you know, out of the screen. So if you are targeting visas, guys, always try to target the highest visa first, so that if you are not landing there, you might be landing a little bit at the bottom, so that it can help you, you know, at least secure 491. If you're already targeting 491, there are less chances that if in future they might change something, we might even not be eligible for 491. Imtiaz Khan is saying, hi, any way to get around section 48 bar? See, Imtiaz, we have seen a number of numerous, you know, social media videos posted by unknown sources where they said, you know, section 48 bar will be, you know, vanished, or they're going to do this. Section 48, guys, we need to understand, is an act. Act is a law. Law can only be implemented if, you know, there is a discussion in the parliament done by the senators. We do not believe that, you know, anytime soon this might come up. Okay, getting around section 48 bar, yes, you can leave the country and then you can lodge the visa. Now previously a lot of people try to use you know, a New Zealand bubble to try to get the, you know, invites, and then they go to New Zealand. But either way, you have to leave Australia. Corsani, please answer my question. Okay, Cor. Doing chef job ready program at Outer Regional South Australia. Okay. Did masters in IT but didn't do PY. Am I eligible to get study points? I am 35 years old, worrying about my points. Any chance to get 190? Okay. So, Corsani, I believe your question is that I have done masters in IT, but I never did PY. Will I get 15 points for my masters? Yes, that's what I'm trying to understand. Is that your question? So, when it comes to general skill migration, any highest qualification which you have achieved, Corsani, you will get the points. So even if you are doing job ready program, say for example, you did masters in IT and you did certificate 4, the question, you know, might come up in your mind. Okay, so will I get points for certificate 4 or will I get points for masters? Of course, masters, because it's your highest qualification. So there are chances, you know, if you've done masters, you never did PY, that's okay. But still you are doing job ready program in Outer Regional South Australia, there are high chances. Okay, you are 35 years old, that's still, you know, you might not be getting maximum points for your age, but 25 is still not bad. Okay, so there are chances that you might be eligible for 190, depending upon what kind of commitment you are showing in future to the state South Australia. Yes, so trying to show them, you know, something like employment contracts which are more promising, that next coming 1 year, 2 years I'm still staying here. Imtiaz Khan is saying thank you very much, my friend. Can I claim my job ready experience in South Australia to satisfy the state requirement of 12 months for 491? Nikhil, job ready program experience and South Australian requirements can be done exactly at same time. Okay, so if you are, say for example, I'm in South Australia and they said you must be working in your nominated occupation for 12 months. Okay, I went there, I did my job ready program for 12 months. Automatically, I, you know, met both the requirements. Okay, so which is a very great thing. Yes, you can claim your job ready work experience in South Australia. Okay, which will give you 5 points, plus state will give you also 5 points if you are eligible. Corsan is saying thanks Cor, for joining the live session. Sunil Shah, okay, this will be our last comment. I am done Masters of Accounting, still left to complete degree and doing job in aged care. Will be I am eligible to 491, or else I need to go now and stay in Outer Regional South Australia. See, Sunil, if you are working in aged care, okay, now people have got this, you know, sort of, what do you call this, you know, assumption in their own mind that, you know, if I'm working in aged care, I might be eligible for this, I might be it doesn't work like that, my friend. Your occupation relies on your qualification, your skill. Your occupation is accounting. Okay, if you are in, you know, regional South Australia, or I'm not sure which state you are in. Okay, depending upon the state, try to see if there is some other options for you, any kind of trade course, or maybe which is more beneficial for you. Or even if you're in accounting, it's always better you find a job in accounting, so that further 482 or 186 pathway is, you know, helpful. In regards to, if you are in Outer Regional South Australia and you are working there as an aged care, you know, yes, so you are saying I'm in South Australia regional, there are chances, might, if you've got an accounting skill assessment, you're working in aged care, you try to convince the state that, you know, your employer can write down your heaps of stories in regards to convincing the state that how your services are required in regional, and you might be invited for 491. Because given that I told you that South Australia is such kind of a state which will consider your case on, you know, individual basis and see is that services particularly required in South Australia, and if they are convinced, you might get 491, my friend. Corsani is saying, can we get 190 at 65 or higher? Will get the first preference as compared to 65. See, Corsani, when it comes to South Australia, if you meet the requirement, you just lodge the nomination itself. Okay, There is no such thing like, you must have high points or low. If you meet the requirement, lodge the nomination. Let's see what the assessor feels like in regards to your commitment to the state. And then accordingly, you might be getting the invite. So if you're in South Australia, I'll recommend you, if you've got minimum 0.65, just lodge the nomination and then see how it goes. Okay, guys. It seems like most of the comments have been, cleared. A lot of information has been shared with you guys today. In furthermore sessions, our experienced registered migration agents will be online on Facebook in regards to different topics. If you have certain topics in your mind which you want to be, taught onto, or you want any kind of, knowledge about that, you can leave a comment. Our team will be approaching you onwards. If you've got any question about your courses, if you are focusing on, what kind of state we are, want to get benefit out of it, try to meet a registered migration agent and choose your options wisely. And hopefully, you might have a nice future ahead. Australia is that kind of a state which will give you a perfect opportunity to get permanent resident only if you want to become permanent resident. No such agent or no such person will get you PR if you yourself are not serious, are not proactive about your permanent residency situation. So that's about it from my side, guys. My name is Kamaljeet Singh. Myself, I'm a registered migration agent, and hopefully you enjoyed this video session. And if you've got any further questions, you can contact us. And for now on, I'll see you next time. Have a nice evening, fellas.